I thought I would come in and chat about why we find ourselves still chasing love. And like, let's be real here. We all want to be loved. We all want to be nurtured. We all want to be needed. We all want to have our person, right? And when we've come from these toxic spaces, had the childhood wounds, a narcissistic parent or an emotionally unavailable parent, or a parent that wasn't present, um, emotionally abusive parent, whatever that looks like in our childhood, perhaps we were one of many children. And, we got left lost in the pecking order, that we didn't get that nurturing and that one-to-one attention, that we were forever vying for our parents' attention with all of the kids. Or perhaps, we were the eldest of a big family, and so we were parentified very young as well. Our parents don't necessarily need to have these toxic, narcissistic traits and behaviors for us to have these childhood wounds. So, lots of clients do come to me and say, there was nothing wrong with my childhood, Cass. Like, it was really good. And yeah, I get that. That's totally valid. Like, your mum and dad are awesome, and everyone's mum and dads are awesome. This isn't a witch hunt or a blame game. However, if we are one of many, we're vying for attention. We're like, pick me. And then we're forever trying to be that overachiever, people pleaser to get the attention. We're vying for attention, right? So that's how that can come about. Also, it could be that when we were kids, we were bullied at school and our parents didn't know how to handle that. We got the whole toughen up, you'll be right, that's a part of life, rah, 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 rah. However, we didn't emotionally regulate through that because our parents didn't know how to emotionally regulate us through that, because their parents were told, harden up, mate. So, it can come about like that too, then how we become codependent, how we become this person who is chasing love, chasing nurturing, chasing emotional needs that are meeting us, giving us compassion, acceptance, valued. I can see you, I can hear you. And that then soothes our inner child as an adult, because that's what we're seeking. And that is why we're always chasing love. And if we're then people that have had the narcissistic parent, the toxic space, the perhaps abusive narcissistic relationship, we will then chase love in that space too. And we will chase that person. We'll chase that unhealthy person more so, because we gave them everything. It's like, many of us here are parents. It's like that firstborn child. We give the child everything. We're like the super mum for our firstborn children, right? And then number two, number three, number four, however many come along, and that sort of waters down because you've got to spread yourself thin. However, it's like when we've given ourselves to this narcissist or this toxic relationship or this toxic situation, we give them our all. And we then go, okay, well, I can do this. But we're chasing that love, that nurturing, that feeling is what we're chasing. That person could be toxic and treating you badly and unacceptably, but you're chasing that love because you're scared that you're not going to get it from anywhere else. So then you're chasing it in all the wrong places. And this is why we keep chasing love, because we're so scared that we're never going to get it. We're never going to have it. And we will have it in any way, in any format, as long as we get something that is satisfying that feeling. And that's why we keep chasing love, and that's why we keep chasing love in the wrong places as well, especially after toxic spaces. And that's when it's like, why do I want to keep going back? Why do I want this so bad? Why do I always choose the wrong person? And it's for exactly those reasons again, is that person gave your inner child some satisfaction of need in the beginning, that the inner child's screaming out, going, I want more of that because I never had that. So then all of a sudden, that's that addiction hit. that has you craving more, just like sugar, just like meth. And the more that you get that little hit, because you don't know what healthy relationships look like, it's giving you that chemical hit straight away that your body in our little Refidex here is going, oh my God, we never had that. That's soothing this little hole in this story. I want more of that, right? And every time you get that little hit from this person, regardless of how they're treating you, good, bad, or ugly, you're fulfilling what's lost in these stories, in these archives that were never met, where those emotional needs were never met back there as a child. So give me some love if this is making sense, and whack some comments, whack a comment in there too if this is resonating with what you've experienced or what you're going through or what you've been through before. Would love to hear. And if you've got questions, pop them in there too, because I'll come back and answer them. So when we find ourselves again after these toxic, after we've just come out of a narcissistic relationship, when we've found ourselves back in another toxic relationship, and we're then sitting at the back end of it going, how the heck am I here again? Like, what am I not doing? What am I not understanding here? And it is that, and I don't like to say you're not learning your lesson. It's more about what are the opportunities that are being presented to you here that you aren't utilizing. And that can look like, and this is where we then heal from these toxic spaces and heal from um, going back and chasing that in the wrong places again. And that looks like us putting in our own boundaries as to how we desire to be treated, right? Because narcissists come in like knight in shining armors on a bloody big ass white horse, and their fluffy feathered hat and whatever, and sweep you off your feet. They absolutely do. Absolutely do. And we're like, whoa, and we're dazzled. Absolutely dazzled in that moment. Totally are. And that's we're like a bug zapper. We're like the bug that's gone to the light. And we can't look away. So that's like, oh, I want more of that. Just like eating sugar. Just like, an addict who's addicted. And we're like, oh, I wonder what more about that. I wonder what's more about that. And then what happens from that is that they do dazzle us. And they sweep us off our feet. And then they do something that's unacceptable. They treat you unacceptably. They speak to you unacceptably. And you find yourself stepping back going, hang about, that's not right. And we have that moment. We absolutely have that moment. And then we go, no, that's not like last time. Nah, totally different. It'll be okay. So see how we didn't listen to the first hit? We then talked over the top of it and swatted it away. And then off we go on our merry way again, and we've let them get away with that unacceptable behaviour. But that's our first red flag, and should be a deal breaker. Should be, yeah, no, that's not good enough, sorry, I'm out. But we don't listen. And if we did listen, hell yeah, good job. And these are the signposts along the way of every relationship of is that a goalpost or a red flag? Because then what happens next time? Something happens and you're like, oh, by now we could be a few months in. And it's like, oh, it's only early days, or, no, it's okay. Same thing again. We don't listen to the first hit of, oh, what? Which is the red flag. We then talk over the top of it, compromise ourselves, because we can be understanding, we can see where they're coming from, all of the things, all of the compassionate, considerate, kind things. However, they're overstepping your boundaries. They're overstepping what you desire and think is acceptable in a relationship. And if they're not willing to have a conversation and respect that boundary, see and hear you and validate you on that, deal breaker. And you get my drift. This is what happens. This is how we then get stuck in this relationship, because then it could go 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever that looks like. And then you think, oh no, it's 12 months, we're doing okay. This is all right. And a lot of clients and a lot of experiences that I've seen is that we your last relationship could be physically abusive, but this relationship isn't, so this is okay. Well, he hasn't hit me yet, so this is okay. It's all okay. It's actually not. Because as soon as that first hit came along, you're like, oh, no, this isn't okay. That's what you listen to. That's where the self-trust needs to be built in that exact moment. And that's where one-to-one support in Voxer with me works a treat, because all my clients that I've got in one-to-one, they will literally get onto Voxer in that exact moment and go, Cass, rah, rah, rah. And then we talk through red flag or boundary, and then we talk through how that works. So this is why having that support at that time, especially when you're negotiating new relationships or you find yourself veering back to an old relationship, it's really good to have that support if you know the toxic cycle, if you know that your boundaries are being steamrolled, if you know that you're being bulldozed, if you know that it's not healthy and what you actually desire, and you're not sure what the future could look like or what you could are deserving of, because you've never been in a space healthy enough to actually see that for yourself just yet. And that's why it's super important to have that person that you can speak to in these moments, or when you go to therapy, or whoever your supportive person is that you can talk through this. But also being very, very mindful that you don't burn bridges with friends and family members and stuff like that, because they can absolutely get so sick of it that they're just like, oh, fuck off, and I don't want to listen to you anymore. So that's why we chase love. That's how it continues. And that's also how you can break that cycle and start to trust yourself, build that there, and start listening to yourself. And that's why it's really important when we come out of a toxic space and a toxic relationship. One of the first things that I do with everybody, with all of my clients, is we create a stop list. And the stop list is around, it's a couple of different ways that you can use it. But in this example, the best thing about that is you write a list and you're like, what don't I like? What wasn't acceptable in this relationship? He spoke to me badly. He treated me like this. He made it out that it was always my fault. He never said sorry. He never took responsibility for his actions. He accused me of things and then didn't let me respond or reciprocate and listen and resolve in a healthy way. Everything was always my fault, even though he was the one that did it, but it was my fault. We're writing down those things. So they're our red flags, they're our deal breakers. That's our stop list, right? Because that's what's not acceptable for you in a relationship, and they're not acceptable for anybody. I will totally give you all permission that none of those are acceptable in any way. And so then when we're navigating new relationships and we're finding ourselves chasing this love, we're looking at this stop list and going, hang about, he does this, he does this, he does this, he does this. And if you look at the list and go, and you start negotiating with yourself, deal breaker. Because that's your old conditioned self coming up over the top and you're not listening to your list. And this is why that list is really important to do with somebody who is in a healthy space with you, who can really give you that discernment in this space that you can fully trust it. And when you go back to it, if you're starting to waver on it and go, I'm not really sure, and negotiate and justify some of those things to yourself, that's where it's really important to jump on, either Voxer one-to-one with me or with somebody else, and be like, oh, and have that person be like, hey, no, you need to stay strong because you're wavering. You had the stop list for a reason. It was this, this, and this. And if you don't listen to this time, you're going to go back, and we're going to be back in this circle, back at this spot in 3, 6, 9, 12 months time, 3 years, 5 years, whatever that looks like. So that's how the stop list is really amazing in that space. I've talked about the stop list in using it a couple of different ways in other spaces on other lives, especially with the co-parent and stuff like that when we're responding to them. But in this particular one, that stop list is really great in that way. It's really like when we're going through when we've broken off the contact and we've broken off the relationship, or they've broken it off with us and discarded us, breaking this cycle is really tricky. And there's the ebbs and the flows, there's the highs and the lows, which is absolutely normal, because you're grieving a relationship, you're grieving a love that hasn't happened, or a love that never was what it was promised to be or what you envisaged it to be. We're going through that grieving space and period. And even though they were a shithead, it doesn't negate that you're grieving a loss, because you went into that relationship open heart, open mind, to be vulnerable and give yourself to that space and to that person. And then they just literally shut all over it. And you're cleaning up the mess now. So even though deep down, and it's not healthy, and that you're not honoring yourself in that space, it's really important to use that stop list. And it's really important to remember that it's a day by day thing after, when you're recovering, when you're coming out of it. And just like starting a new routine, just like going on a healthy eating plan, just like starting to get back into exercise again, just like starting something new, it's a day by day thing, right? So it's like, okay, today I'm going to eat really healthy. You need to get through the whole day being healthy. You'll get to certain spaces throughout the day where usually you would have had a habit where, like, oh yeah, I reach for, maybe you're in a workplace where they have a food van come around, or they have a sweets cart come around, or something like that. I know in the US, a lot of the big corporations and stuff like that, not in the US, in the UK, they have like at Goldman's and Saks and stuff like that, they have a sweets cart that comes around at mid-afternoon laden with sweets and stuff like that. Absolute trap, don't work there. And we will reach for that, right? And it's okay, no, from next week onwards, I'm not going to be reaching for that. So just like this process as well, it's a day by day process. If you can get through each day with the no contact, with the not going back, with the sticking to your list, not breaking that, it's each day is a win. Each day is a win. Each day is a win. And it will get better as each day goes on, because the more that you cannot go back and not share that energy and not go into that space, the more that you're rebuilding that and recharging that for yourself. And the other thing that I really strongly suggest in these spaces is doing the things that you desire for yourself at least 1 to 2 hours per day, every day. And what that could look like is, and it's something that is absolutely decided by yourself only. And this is really good if you suffer from anxiety and depression and things like that, in that you are still doing something for yourself. This is great for grief too. And as in lost a loved one, is make sure that you're doing those at least 2 hours a day. And that could look like going to the gym for an hour, could look like taking the dog for a walk for an hour, could look like you've gone down to the park during lunchtime and then gone to the park after. And then it could look like that you're watching your favorite TV series at night that you get to choose only, 2 hours of what you desire to do for you. It could be that you go to Pilates. It could be that you're reading a book. It could be going out with friends. It could be going to the movies on your own, whatever it looks like. But 2 hours per day doing exactly what you choose for you, that no one else has any control over. It's all your choice. And what this does, it's A, it keeps us sane, and B, it exercises that we're making a choice for ourselves that serves us and nobody else. And we absolutely deserve it. And the more that we focus on that and getting through that and exercising that, we're distracting ourselves from the other. It's also really a great point where we actually just block that person if we possibly can. If they're a co-parent, I've talked about that before, how we can get around that. However, in this space, when we're first coming out of it, these are the suggestions that I give my clients, my sphere, whoever's going through this. These are the strategies that we give in this space to help us start breaking this cycle and start finding ourselves again. Get some support, jump into groups like this, get some friend buddies together, go and do some group things, go away on a girls' day, go to the nearest, go somewhere for lunch that you've always wanted to go, stuff that you want to choose for you, things that you've always wanted to do, go pole dancing, go learn how to belly dance, whatever it is, Go learn how to play chess. Go to bingo. Like, fun stuff. Everyone's going, bingo, fun. um, so yeah, so this, I think that's all I wanted to share about this topic. And it takes effort. It does take commitment, just like it does to go to the gym, just like it does to start something new. It takes effort to continue to work through that and go through it day by day. But it's absolutely possible. And you have a ton of proof in your history and in your background that you can do this because you've done it before and you can do it again. And you're fearing where you've already been right now. So there's actually nothing to be scared of because you're certainly not where you once were. All right, my loves, I hope you will have the best rest of your day. And as always, any questions, let me know.